Welcome to Card Central 365, powered by Gray Bar here on STL Sports Central. We have Mike Claiborne. Claibs presented by the Painting and Decorating Foundation of St. Louis. I'm Stefan Caray. It has not been the most exciting last 2 days in Seattle. The Mets lose each of their first two games against the Phillies. There were a lot of opportunities, but I think as you guys have talked about and discussed, this is a Mariners team that if you score three, you've got to hold them to two. And as the Cardinals rotation is currently set up, that's a tough ask.
It is a tough ask. And, when you look at the Mariners lineup, it's probably as good as anyone we've seen here recently. I mean, they don't really have an easy out when you think about two guys that are going to hit over 100 home runs to combine and some other things that they do. They run the bases well. They can pitch. I think if they get in as a wild card, I would not want to face them because I think they have enough of everything to go deep with the exception of experience. But, when you look around, I'm not sure what team has experience in the American League. I mean, yeah, you can say the Yankees, but everybody else is kind of like, kind of feeling their way through it. But it's a formidable team. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And you're right. You better score more than three against them, especially when they're at home. They're really good.
It's an uncharacteristic last couple of games for the Cardinals. We saw most of the season, St. Louis found themselves in early holes where they're coming from behind. That hasn't been the case the last two games, which is surprising, right? You would think that with that extra cushion, they would be able to continue to add on. The Mariners starting pitching, young, exciting, and capable to stop rallies as soon as they begin.
Yeah, you know what? And the other thing, Stefan, is they do a lot of little things well. I'm not sure if I'd say they're a great defensive team, but the way the Cardinals have dealt with them, I think you look at the last two games from the 7th and 8th and 9th innings, the at bats have been feeble. Okay, there's no other way to put it. It just seems like that third time, fourth time around the order, looking at too many strikes, getting themselves out. And a bulk of the strikeouts have taken place at that point during the course of the last two games. And it's just a different approach, man. That it's the opposite of what we've seen in the past when they get late in the ball game, when they fight and they do some things that give themselves a chance. That's not happening right now.
Well, that is part of the growing pains of being a young team like the Cardinals, getting late call-ups in September and figuring out what you have for 2026. But I'd feel remiss if I didn't mention the opportunity's been there to really make things interesting down the stretch. You win these last two games, you're 2.5 games out all of a sudden of that third and final wild card spot.
There is. And, when you look at the players who've been given a look, I think Swanson has certainly accounted for himself well. Riley O'Brien, when he's healthy, has accounted for himself well. And then after that, I'm just kind of like, I haven't seen anybody break through. I mean, we thought Nathan Church might be the spark. He's having a tough time hitting. Defensively, he's solid. Jordan Walker, I think, has regressed a little bit. Victor Scott has been a guy we're still trying to figure out because the strikeouts have been his enemy, but his defense has been solid. Thomas Ajayci, he's just a guy who's trying to figure it out, okay? I don't know if he has a position or not. I think he lets the game rush him a little too quick. So, in Nolan Gorman, just when you think this is a guy you want to have, here comes a strikeout. Here comes the defensive issues. So I'm not sure if anybody's really broken through. Yeah, I would say Alex Burleson has made a name for himself. Ivan Herrera has been reasonably consistent. The catching situation, I think the jury's still out on Jimmy Crooks and what he can actually do. Pedro Pages is who he is, as is Joel Pozo. So when you look at the regulars, you say to yourself, okay, we're pretty good on what we know who they are. The pitching, as I said, Swanson, O'Brien, Leahy are guys that I think have really made strides. I think everybody else is just, they are what they are or they've regressed.
Cardinals have a winning record since May 1st, and it's crazy to think about considering all the struggles that they've had over really the last few months and just the numbers, right? They're at the bottom of the league in a lot of the offensive categories. They haven't pitched particularly well. How good of a job do you think Ollie Marmol has done down the stretch, especially with a team that I think a lot of fans haven't necessarily given up on, but have turned the page to 2026?
Well, that's a great way to put it because I don't think fans have given up on it because I think if not for Ollie and his staff getting what they're getting out of these guys, we'd have given up on them well before now. I mean, we're still talking about 3.5 games out of a wild card spot. I don't know if that's going to happen or not because I don't know if you have enough pitching to get you there. But I think this is his best job, in my opinion. Now, the record may say something different, but if you see this team every day like you do and like I do, and you just know you're short, you didn't do anything to improve your ball club other than sign Phil Maton, and he's no longer here. And for you to walk into the season without any legitimate improvements, adjustments, call-ups of impact, to say where they're at now, I think is mind-boggling.
It is certainly a perplexing situation and one that it feels like he's a little bit shorthanded going into every game. But I think that despite that, he's shown his managerial capabilities and his intellect more often than not. And I've seen on social media people arguing, well, he manages the bullpen or he manages the rotation. I have zero gripes with how the bullpen has played by and large this season, especially of late without Helsley, without Maton, and without, of course, Steven Matz. So you lose your best three arms, arguably, in the back end of your bullpen, and you haven't really missed a beat all that much.
Yeah, you think about what you just said. You just talked about three veterans who've been in the game, and in return, you get a Rule 5 guy, you get an independent league guy, you get a guy that's been with three different teams this year, and you have some other guys within your organization that, the only reason why they're here is because we have no one else. So that's a pretty big trade-off. And to look at the records and what the performance of those players who have moved on, maybe even says even more about the job that he did because they were effective enough to be traded to someone else. And since they've landed in those other spots, the grass was not as green as maybe some would have thought it was going to be.
And that extends beyond Ollie Marmol, his staff, Dusty Blake, of course, Stubby Clapp, Pop Warner. And you can't not mention Brant Brown and the work that he has put in with these players individually and collectively. So really, they have done a nice job weathering the storm. And I'd like to touch on that a little bit further on in the show. But a quick reminder that this show is powered by Graybar, your distributor for electrical datacom needs. Mike Claiborne is presented by the Painting and Decorating Foundation of St. Louis. Now, tonight, game number 3 is an important one for the Cardinals. You don't want to get swept by the Mariners and then head to Milwaukee against a team that just refuses to lose. The Brewers, I don't know if it's devil magic. I don't know what it is, but they have just found ways to win and been the thorn in the side of every single team that they've played, at least in the last 3 months. That game's going to begin at 8:40 Central Time. I mean, the Brewers, what's up with them? I don't understand how they're not getting more circulation and traction to be maybe the World Series frontrunner right now.
I think maybe one of the reasons is because you really don't know who these players are. I mean, you look at the Dodgers and you see Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts. You look at the Yankees and you see Judge and Stanton and people of that nature. You look at Philadelphia and what they're doing with some household names. But when you get to the Brewers, you kind of like, okay, who do they have? They have, Willie Adames. No, he's not there anymore. Well, they got the club. No, he's not there anymore. And then you say, your designated hitter, who was a guy that really had some good seasons before his back started giving problems. He's having a good season. But, none of those other guys are really household names that we're quite familiar with. And I'm anxious to see them because we haven't seen them in a while. And I don't know what they're drinking, but it certainly is working for them. And you have to tip your cap to them because they've been maybe as consistent of a team as we've seen in all of baseball since the beginning of the season. Remember, I thought they would compete with Pittsburgh to make sure they stayed out of last place. So I was dead wrong about that. But you know what? I guess what I would say from a distance, when you look at the raw numbers, they must be very athletic because they do a lot of things right. They run the bases well. They slug when they need to. They're solid defensively. And yes, they can pitch. Now, I don't know if there's a Cy Young candidate on that team or not. I don't know if they're going to have the bullpen of the year. But I know this, man, they win more of those games than maybe some people thought they would.
It's crazy to think about. It feels like every single one of their prospects that they've called up has hit. Every single one of their trades or free agent acquisitions has hit. Just a few that pop into my brain. Quinn Priester being acquired from the Red Sox. He's been a revelation for them. Andrew Vaughn, who was left for dead by the Chicago White Sox offensively, has torn the cover off the baseball. Not to mention Jacob Mizorowski and the entire young rotation that they've assembled. Isaac Collins, who's 28 years old and is a major league rookie, but has looked really good out there. Caleb Durbin, who they traded for, is hitting 260. I don't think I've ever seen a team that has had that much consistent success from player to player that has come up as really an unknown.
Yeah. Well, let's take it one step further. You just mentioned 5 guys, and 4 of those guys came from other organizations. Mizorowski is the only guy I think is probably homegrown. But when you look, man, it's something they see in other players that they feel like if they put them in their environment and teach them up their way, they can get more mileage out of. And that's a tribute to the scouting staff and the front office and being able to recognize those players and being able to insert them in the lineup and have a real impact. We haven't done that this year because we haven't really made any trades to try and bring anybody else in. We've called up some guys from the farm system. That's been okay. But none of the bats have been able to help, and that's what they're doing too. I mean, they're getting some offense from players that weren't even on the roster in the beginning of the year. And now they're here and they're doing their job.
They're eerily resemblant of the Tampa Bay Rays teams from the early 2020s,
Yeah,
where everybody talked about their scouting department and found a way to turn players that had no name or didn't have value in other organizations into all-star caliber players.
Yeah, and I don't even know how many all-stars they have. I just know as a team, because I think all-stars is more of a popularity contest than anything else. You get your name out there, and all of a sudden people think, well, he's a perennial all-star now. And I'm not sure if that's the case with Milwaukee. I think that they just have put together a really good team because I'm not sure who's having a career year there. That's the other thing. They're just all kind of going along the same pace when they all, turning in good at bats, giving them one extra inning than maybe what's needed. And that's how they're winning games. And I tip my cap to them. I mean, you really have to look at them and say, where's the hole at? Now, I know they're a little thin on pitching. They've had some guys go down in the bullpen. But when they do have guys go down, they find somebody else who can come in and give them an inning or two.
That's depth, and that's the importance of having depth. The Cardinals are searching for that for years to come. Now, tonight, let's break down tonight's game between the Cardinals and the Mariners. Can't forget about the team you're actually playing tonight and look ahead to the Brewers. Logan Gilbert versus Michael McGreevy. McGreevy, again, has had his hot starts and his cold starts, but he's still giving you a 6-3 record. For whatever reason, the team seems to like playing behind him.
I think there's something to be said about that. I think what I see in McGreevy is his ability to adjust from one inning to another. Sometimes he may get out to a little bit of a rocky start. That second time around the order, he's been a lot more effective. I mean, his numbers are, he shaves his ERA in half between the third and sixth innings. So that's something that we have to pay attention to see if he can get off a little earlier. The other story here tonight is Masyn Winn and the torn meniscus. Now, some say he can play through it. Others say, why don't you shut him down? I think Masyn Winn is going to try and play because there's some things at stake. Man only has 3 errors this year. He also has a chance to have the highest defensive run saved for a shortstop in the history of the game. So he's flirting with some things that I think would really bode well for him in his second full year. A chance to win a Gold Glove and a chance to maybe set a record that is very difficult to do for the position that he plays. Now, I think he's got to be very selective on when and where he plays, but I don't think we've seen it last to Masyn Winn.
No, and if he has a torn meniscus, I'm sure it's something that has been more present than the diagnosis. And
exactly.
If he's capable of playing, then why not? Again, it's his decision. It's very different than having a torn Achilles or a torn ACL. So I trust the team doctors, as you know, that they'll make the decision that's best for Masyn Winn, because I like this because again, this isn't an individual game. It is a team game, but there are individual components that impact value. And when an organization does things that tries to limit a player's value or not reward players for good work, like when you see free agents get signed by, say, the Pittsburgh Pirates, and they get released from the team 10 innings before they get a big bonus, that doesn't bode well. I think the Cardinals letting Masyn Winn do this is a show of good faith in, hey, we believe in you, we trust in you, and we want to see you achieve your own personal goals as well as our team goals.
I think they're going to let him make that decision. If he can't go, he can't go. And I don't think anybody's going to fight that. When you think about, my only concern always was, could Masyn Winn hold up for a 162 game season? Because he plays so hard. I don't expect him to play 162, but I'd like to see him scale it back from time to time. But you don't want to take that fight. You don't want to take that desire away from him either. So this is something that we'll probably watch day to day. I wouldn't be surprised to see him playing a day game after a night game or vice versa. But then again, we don't have that many day games left. Let's see. We have one on Sunday. We have one next Wednesday. We have one next Sunday. And I think we have one on the road. We go to Chicago, but by then I think things would be decided whether he's going to play with any more consistency.
Well, that's really good analysis, Claibs, who is presented by the Painting and Decorating Foundation of St. Louis. Our show, as always, is powered by Graybar, but all content is brought to you by DraftKings. Missouri, get ready. The wait is almost over. DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is coming soon to the Show Me State, and you can sign up today. New Missouri customers can get $300 in bonus bets when we launch on December 1st. Download now and place a $5 bet when we go live. DraftKings Sportsbook brings everything you need to elevate your game day, including live in-game betting, lightning-fast payouts, and endless ways to get in on the action, all right from your phone. And when we officially go live in Missouri, you'll be betting with the Sportsbook app trusted by millions. Safe, secure, and has fast money withdrawals. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code STL Sports to grab $300 in bonus bets with just a $5 bet when we go live December 1st. That's code STL Sports in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. Welcome back to Card Central 365. And one of the points that we haven't touched on isn't necessarily with the team on the field, but has to do with Liam Doyle. Organization has spoken about Doyle that he is going to join Springfield for their playoff push in the Texas League. That's pretty interesting to me to see them being that aggressive with him. But if you want to build championship culture, these young guys have to learn how to play in high-level games. Yeah, and the sooner the better. They obviously see something in him that gives him a little bit of an advantage. And I think it's good for him to get a taste of that as his season ends. Remember, after they drafted him, they kind of shut him down a little bit. They wanted to make sure that when he came to them, he was physically ready to go. And so now with Springfield in a playoff hunt, I think that'd be the level you'd start him off at next year anyway. So why not get a look at him and see what he can do and see what things you can build on going into the offseason. So I like the move, and I hope we can be more aggressive with other players, giving them that chance. Now, being aggressive and being able to develop, they have to go hand in hand. You have to be able to see things out of a player that gives you a feeling that he can repeat what he's doing at another level. And the teaching method may change within the organization and how things are done, because currently, if you had to look it over, you say, well, I wish we would have done this better. I wish we would have waited on this guy. Maybe this guy stayed too long. So you're going to start from a clean slate here. And when you do that, you're going to find some guys that you say, why can't he be a Mizorowski, or why can't he be such and such, or some other player that's been called up faster than maybe what we've done in the past. I think a lot of people are wondering, why didn't you just send him straight to AA? And I think the answer to that is not all, but most of the talented AA players are already in AAA or the major leagues at this point in the season. So you kind of flirt with the idea, what's the point in having him face competition that maybe isn't as good as what he saw at the University of Tennessee? Well, the playoffs sort of throws that out the window, because the teams that are making the playoffs are the ones that retained their best players or were log jammed at the AA level. So he will get good experience playing against some of these hitters. I agree with you. And that's what he needs. He needs experience against competition that's higher than him.
on how does he get those guys out. And I always felt like Double A was a challenge because that is the developmental year of your baseball career. When you get to Triple A, it's just polishing up for the big leagues. But what you do and how you learn the game is in Double A. And so I think this is a good step for him. As you mentioned, he's not facing just the scrubs here. He's facing another team that's playoff worthy, which means they have good players. And that's a better situation than pitching in A-ball right now.
And if the Cardinals want to have their championship glory come back, the value of playing in those high-level games, playing in those intense games, elimination games, will serve him and the rest of the prospects playing there very, very well. It's exciting to see what's happening in the future for St. Louis as they start to rebuild that farm system and figure out what 2026 and beyond will look like. Claibs, what is the outlook for you tonight and for the rest of the season? I know they're 4.5 out. You lose back-to-back games against Seattle where you could have gained some ground. What do you want to see in your perfect world?
I want to see consistency. I want to see effort. I want to see the reduction of mistakes. Basically, I want to see these guys play to the wire. I don't think anyone on this team has a guaranteed job for next year. That's how I look at it. Because I've seen what you guys have done collectively. It's not enough. So that means we're going to have to move some people and not bring some people back. And I want people who I think I can have a winning portion with. It's guys who can be part of a winning team. So I want to see them go hard to the wire. And there's some guys you probably already made a decision on. And there are other guys you want to say, I'd like to see another week in this situation. So I think that's where we're at. And if they have any sense, they'd be doing it. Because remember, this team may not want you, but somebody else might, because teams are still looking at players for next year. They may think this guy can help them. They may think this guy, we change his swing, can do this, or maybe if this guy adds a changeup, he can do that. So there are a lot of things that go into the acquisition of players that we feel can't help us anymore, but maybe it'll help somebody else. And if that's the case, maybe I'm making a trade.
And if you look at how the Cardinals traded at the deadline, I think you've been on the record saying that they didn't do quite enough getting rid of players. But I think what they got for the players that they traded away, they won most of the trades. They found a way to capitalize on their value. And some of those players that were shipped off have not had their best performances with their new teams.
No, that's true. That hasn't always been the case. You really don't know about these trades until 2 years from now, because remember, you're getting a guy's normally in Double A, maybe elevating to Triple A, which means he's going to need some more seasoning. And with the way we're going, we're looking for players who can help. We don't need players who need help. We need players who can help. And I think that's what they're going to be looking for with this next group of players that they've been able to acquire. How quickly can they help?
Well, great analysis, Claibs, as always. You are presented by the Painting and Decorating Foundation of St. Louis. This has been Card Central 365, powered by Graybar. All content is presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. For everyone at STL Sports Central, for Mike Claiborne, I'm Stefan Caray. Cardinals versus Mariners, the finale of the series at 8:40 Central Time. Be sure to tune in. And once again, we thank you so much for joining